Ancient Egypt is one of the oldest and most fascinating civilizations in human history. Its story began more than 4,500 years ago along the banks of the Nile River, which provided fertile land in the middle of vast deserts. Around 3100 BCE, King Narmer united Upper and Lower Egypt, creating one kingdom under a single ruler. This marked the beginning of a civilization that would endure for thousands of years. The Egyptians developed advanced systems of government, agriculture, writing, and religion. Their society was organized around the pharaoh, who was considered both a king and a divine figure chosen by the gods. The Nile River played a central role in everyday life, providing water for crops, transportation, and trade. Because of the annual flooding of the Nile, farmers could grow wheat, barley, and other crops that sustained a growing population. As villages expanded into cities, Egypt became a powerful and wealthy kingdom. The early Egyptians also invented hieroglyphic writing, allowing them to record laws, religious beliefs, and historical events. These achievements laid the foundation for one of the most remarkable civilizations the world has ever known.
The period known as the Old Kingdom, which began around 2686 BCE, is often called the Age of the Pyramids. During this era, Egyptian rulers demonstrated their power through massive construction projects. The most famous monuments are the pyramids at Giza Pyramid Complex, including the magnificent Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu. These enormous structures were designed as royal tombs and reflected the Egyptians' belief in life after death. Skilled architects, engineers, and laborers worked together to move millions of stone blocks with remarkable precision. Contrary to popular myths, historians believe that most pyramid builders were paid workers rather than slaves. Alongside the pyramids, Egyptians built temples, statues, and elaborate burial chambers filled with treasures and sacred objects. Religion influenced every aspect of life, and people worshipped gods such as Ra, Osiris, and Isis. Priests performed ceremonies to maintain harmony between humans and the divine world. The achievements of the Old Kingdom continue to amaze modern scientists and visitors, making Egypt one of the most recognizable civilizations in history.
After periods of political instability, Egypt entered the Middle Kingdom around 2055 BCE, an era often considered a golden age of literature, art, and administration. Pharaohs strengthened the central government and expanded agricultural production through irrigation projects. Trade routes connected Egypt with neighboring regions in Africa and the Middle East, bringing gold, ivory, incense, and exotic goods into the kingdom. Egyptian culture flourished as writers produced stories, poems, and wisdom texts that reflected the values of their society. During this period, officials improved record-keeping and taxation systems, helping the government manage resources more efficiently. The Middle Kingdom also saw increased military activity as rulers sought to protect Egypt's borders and secure trade routes. However, foreign invasions eventually weakened the kingdom. A group known as the Hyksos entered Egypt and introduced new technologies, including horse-drawn chariots. Although the Hyksos ruled parts of Egypt for a time, Egyptian leaders eventually expelled them. This victory inspired a new era of expansion and power that would become the New Kingdom, the most famous period in Egyptian history.
The New Kingdom began around 1550 BCE and transformed Egypt into a mighty empire. Pharaohs expanded Egyptian influence across large areas of the Near East and Nubia. Some of the most famous rulers lived during this period, including Hatshepsut, one of history's earliest successful female rulers. She promoted trade and commissioned impressive architectural projects. Another famous pharaoh was Akhenaten, who attempted a religious revolution by promoting the worship of a single god, Aten. His reforms were controversial and largely reversed after his death. The young pharaoh Tutankhamun became famous centuries later when his nearly intact tomb was discovered in 1922. Meanwhile, Ramesses II, often called Ramses the Great, led military campaigns and constructed magnificent temples and monuments.
Egyptian armies, equipped with chariots and advanced weapons, defended the empire and projected power abroad. Art, architecture, and religious practices reached extraordinary levels of sophistication during this era. Massive temples at places such as Abu Simbel still stand today as symbols of Egypt's greatness.
One of the most intriguing aspects of ancient Egyptian civilization was its belief in the afterlife. Egyptians believed that death was not the end, but the beginning of another journey. To prepare for this transition, they developed the practice of mummification, preserving the body so that the soul could recognize it in the next world. Elaborate burial rituals involved prayers, offerings, and sacred texts designed to guide the deceased safely through the afterlife. Wealthy individuals were buried with jewelry, furniture, food, and other possessions they might need beyond death. Tomb walls were decorated with scenes from daily life and religious imagery. The famous Book of the Dead contained spells intended to help souls overcome challenges in the spiritual realm. Egyptian achievements extended beyond religion. They made advances in medicine, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and agriculture. Doctors treated injuries, set broken bones, and performed surgical procedures. Astronomers observed the stars and developed calendars that helped predict the Nile's flooding. Their innovations influenced later civilizations and contributed significantly to humanity's intellectual development.
By the first millennium BCE, Egypt faced increasing pressure from foreign powers. Over time, the kingdom was conquered by Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and eventually Romans. One of the most famous figures of Egypt's final independent era was Cleopatra VII Philopator, who sought to preserve Egypt's independence through alliances and diplomacy. After her defeat in 30 BCE, Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. Although the age of the pharaohs ended, the legacy of ancient Egypt never disappeared. Its monuments survived the centuries, inspiring explorers, historians, and archaeologists from around the world. Discoveries such as the tomb of Tutankhamun renewed global fascination with Egyptian culture. Today, the pyramids, temples, statues, and ancient writings continue to attract millions of visitors and researchers. Ancient Egypt's